The UK is facing an energy crisis and a climate crisis. People are rightfully concerned about their future, both short and long term, as energy costs have shot up while temperatures rise. How can we solve both these problems? For too long, politicians have delayed bringing in proper legislation to deal with these crises, and time is running out. Right now, at COP26, politicians from across the world are meeting to discuss these issues. But is there a solution staring us in the face? Maybe it's time for the nuclear option. Nuclear power is often touted as a clean energy solution to the climate crisis. Nuclear power stations do not emit fossil fuels during production and are one of only a few consistent and reliable green energy sources available at the moment.
Energy security lies in diversity, and I think nuclear is a reliable source of electricity. And also, if we want to be zero carbon, we can't just rely on renewables. We need something for stable basal load, and nuclear is a good option for that.
The fuel for nuclear power is fundamentally uranium, and it's extremely energy dense, and it's very easily stored. And a nuclear fuel, before it goes in a reactor, is really not very radioactive and easy to handle. And this means a country like the UK, which has no uranium mines, can store ample supplies for the years ahead, which means that the fuel availability for nuclear electricity is not a concern in policy terms.
For years, proponents of nuclear energy have battled against fears that nuclear power can be dangerous to people. Disasters such as Chernobyl have lived long in the memory, inspiring video games, films, and TV shows. But nuclear energy is remarkably safe, especially when compared to most fossil fuel energy sources. According to Our World in Data, even including deaths caused by Chernobyl and Fukushima, nuclear power is less deadly than coal, oil, natural gas, and biomass.
I was part of a research team that looked at the long-term consequences in various dimensions, including human health. And we were frankly surprised by the very limited radiological impacts from these accidents. And we looked very closely at Fukushima and similar scale events. We were surprised by how limited the radiological consequences were.
Fukushima was caused by a tsunami. I'm not expecting any tsunamis in northwest Leicestershire. We're the furthest away from the sea in any direction. Chernobyl was the breakdown of the Soviet Union, underfunding and poor management.
But nuclear power is not perfect. It is an incredibly expensive energy source to set up, even if the costs of running it once built are low.
Nuclear power is the most expensive form of electricity generation. It can only be produced with massive long-term, in other words permanent really, public subsidy, and often that is dressed up in all kinds of different ways to make it look like it's not that. But I mean, Hinkley, the construction of Hinkley C nuclear power station is only being achieved through a very expensive public subsidy that will be stuck on bills for years, in other words making our electricity bills, energy bills much more expensive than they would otherwise be, and it's index linked, so it goes up with inflation. I mean, that's a huge guarantee that no other form of electricity production has in quite the same way.
All electricity generation technologies come with a set of attributes, some which work in their favor and some that work against them. And the fundamental set of attributes that drive energy policy are threefold. Their contribution to meeting the climate challenge, the role that they play in what's called energy security, and affordability. And in my opinion, nuclear ticks two of these boxes really well. It ticks the climate challenge box and it ticks the energy security box, but it has suffered from high costs.
And nuclear power stations such as that being built at Hinkley Point C are vast and take up a huge amount of space, which can harm the local environment.
The most reliable, the fastest and cheapest form of generating electricity is not to use it in the first place. In other words, energy efficiency. And it's a weird thing, but politicians always overlook that. They always put less effort into that and give less priority to energy efficiency than thinking about the big high-vis jackets, photo ops of creating a new nuclear power station and so on. But energy efficiency works, very simply. If we can properly insulate our houses and our buildings, if we can drive to much more energy efficiency products and use policy to do that, actually we could potentially see a reduction in electricity demand over the decades ahead rather than an increase, and that is entirely possible technically if we really put the effort into it.
But British company Rolls-Royce is trying to address these issues, proposing the small modular reactor. They say it solves the conundrum of how to create affordable energy, and more of it, with a lower carbon footprint.
Absolute metronomic delivery is part of the design basis for this. And how do you do that? You do that by taking it away from the construction site and moving the reactor into a factory solution. So we build the power station within factories and then deliver it to site, and it gets installed in site. That allows us to control the build cycle, that allows us to compress the build time and allows us to bring it to market earlier. That reliability, that metronomic delivery, then allows us to offer a price point that is commercially investable, and that's the point behind this. We're actually one of the only industries that's required from day one of the design to actually consider what we're going to do at the point of decommissioning. So as part of the design that we're generating, we have a full environmental assessment from day one through to returning the site to a green field. So we know exactly what we're going to do. That's part of the regulatory cycle. There is no carbon, there is minimum impact through discharges during normal operation.
There is no easy solution to the climate crisis, but the time has passed for delaying. Nuclear is not without its flaws, but proponents say it may well be our last hope.